Please like and subscribe in 2026 to help us buy a goat for a family in need. Thanks, and enjoy the video. Hi, this is Scott with Learn to Stop Hunger, and today we're going to look at part 4 of our new video series, which is on the topic of publishing your first game this weekend with no-cost AI tooling. And part 4 is regarding basically setting up some simple basic gameplay for our Dodgem clone. So I already, from the last video, we had Visual Studio open, we had our project open, you can see here that it's open, and we had Gemini open. So if you don't know how to get to that point, go ahead and review part 3 of the video series. And if you'll remember from our last video, we just had a very basic blue screen when we went ahead and tried to launch our game. So now I'm going to provide a prompt to Gemini, and I've already typed this out. I'm going to go ahead and paste it. Okay, so what I put here is, the current project is a monogame C# cross-platform desktop game. Please update this project to be a clone of the Atari 2600 game Dodgem. This is a single-screen game. There are 4 rectangular tracks that surround the screen, with each getting larger as it moves further toward the edge. The tracks have breaks in them in the middle of the top, right, bottom, and left edges of the screens. Screen. The player drives a car on the track, and the car can be moved to a different track using the arrow key when it is lined up with the brakes. So we're going to correct this here. And the computer also has a car that moves in the opposite direction of the player's car. The goal of the game is for the player not to crash into the computer. The computer can randomly switch tracks when it gets to the brakes in the tracks as well. The player's car and the computer's car should be different colors from each other so that the player knows which is which. The movement of the cars never stops once the game starts until the cars crash into each other. And then, we're going to give that a try. I was thinking about, it would be good if we can provide, we'll see how it does with this. It'd be good to provide maybe the context of a screenshot, so that if it doesn't know where to look to find what Dodgem looks like, we can kind of give it a screenshot. That might be a good thing to consider. So I'm going to take a break here for a minute while the Gemini is doing the work for us. Alright, so Gemini is making some progress here on this. We've got, it said, I will update the project to be a clone of the Atari 2600 game Dodgem. Here's my plan. Create classes for the player, computer, and tracks. Draw the tracks and cars. Implement player and computer movement. Implement collision detection. Implement game state management. I will now start by creating the player, computer, and track classes. That actually sounds like a good plan. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and allow for this session. I gotta click on there. Allow for this session. So I go ahead and do that, and we'll see what happens. Alright, so now it is trying to write to player.cs. We're going to go ahead and allow. Let's see what it's doing now. It's creating our classes, our class files. Creating a track class. It's developing some game logic. You can see here where it's talking about the steps that it's taking. And remember again, okay, so what do we got here? adding a sprite font to content. And I believe that the sprite font is used in monogame to be able to display text on the screen. And it's looking at project files. Let's see where we ended up here. Okay, so it's trying to build now. So we'll go ahead and allow that as well. And it keeps bumped me back up to the top again. Okay, so I allowed the build. It's going to go ahead and do that. We're going to wait for the build to complete, and I will be back. Okay, so it has completed the changes, and we're going to go ahead and launch the game to see what it looks like here. Alright, it has launched the game, and here is what it looks like. So we can see there are definitely two cars, and they are different colors. It looks like, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, I guess technically there's 4 tracks. Probably like another line on the inside of this inner track to make it look more like a road. Also, I'm noticing the brakes are not visible between these tracks, although it seems like the computer maybe is finding some brakes that it ends up switching the cars on, but I'll see when does that actually happen here. There's one where it switched it. They're both on the same track now. And they crashed. Okay, so it's doing several of the things that I had asked it to do. So it's progress at least. So we hit enter to restart, we can see where they actually start at. So you could see they started kind of in really opposite areas, like over here in this corner the one did, the blue did, and the red started somewhere over in this area. And on the actual Dodgem game, I believe they both start in the bottom track and going opposite directions. So we definitely have some work to do to make it more functional. But it is a start. So we're going to go ahead and add some of those changes that we noticed are needed as a next step. So first thing, we got to go back to the developer command prompt, which is where we have Gemini here. And we'll need to come up with a new prompt to do some of the fixes. Alright, I've worked up the next prompt that I'm going to try here. And we'll see if this gets us any closer. So I'm going to go ahead and paste in here. I've got the breaks in the track boundaries need to be visible breaks in the lines between tracks so that the player knows when they are at a point that they can switch to a different track using the arrow keys. The break should be at the following position on the tracks: top center, bottom center, left center, and right center. Also, there should be a line on the inner boundary of the innermost track so that it truly looks like the cars have 4 different roads to choose from. So we can see that Gemini is making some modifications now. It's trying to do a build already. We'll see how far it goes with this set of changes. Another thing I'm not sure of is I'm not certain that it supports the arrow key movement yet. We shall see. I don't know about that, but we got to start somewhere, right? Alright, so it has launched it, and it made some changes. The brakes in the track are not very consistent. Let's see. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like we lost kind of consistency in track sizes, so that's one thing. So track sizes should be the same. And then the line brakes they're in the correct position on the outer track, but then they need to be in the same position on the inner tracks. And I want to pay attention to where are these moving tracks at? They moved right there. I guess, yeah, I wanted to see when you're moving the track. Let's see, blue, and does blue ever, okay. Now I did see red went through a solid line. Okay, so that's another, so I think the red probably is the computer and the blue is the player. But the car should not be able to go through a solid line. So we'll put together another prompt and see where we can get with that, with making these extra changes that we're thinking of. Okay, so now it's time to request the additional changes that we just were talking about. Let's see if we can get another step closer here. So I've got, please make the following changes. All 4 tracks should be the same width across. The line brakes are in the correct locations on the outer track, but they need to match the same location on the inner tracks. The car should only be able to pass through the line brakes and not the solid lines. So now it's working further. I just thought of something as well. It'll be something to consider when we get to the point of using actual car sprites for the cars. The tracks might need to be widened out. Right now they're very short, very small for just the square sprites. Now let's go ahead and wait. Let's take a break here and we'll wait until it comes up with the next sample application to look at. Alright, so I'm ready to show you what it came up with here, and it has made progress on the visuals of the tracks. You can see this here. The only thing I want to change is on the innermost track, the line, the inside line there. I think I'd like that to be a solid line so the players don't think that they can move inside that track. Unfortunately, it did seem to introduce some glitches with the computer car. It seems like sometimes it's still going through solid lines, and sometimes it's actually resetting back at the beginning of the line. It's quite odd. So that's something we'll have to work on. So what I want to do is, I've got another small change for the tracks that I'm going to request first here. So we have to go back to our developer command prompt. Okay, here we go. Alright, so I got, the tracks are looking great, but please make some additional adjustments. The inside border of the innermost track should have solid lines and no brakes because the cars cannot move inside there. This should be a fairly quick change for Gemini to accommodate. It says it will create a new method to draw a solid border for a given rectangle. It will modify the draw method in track to use this. Okay. Oh, and it's already doing a build, so we'll see what we come up with here. Okay, here we go. Actually, it did make the change that I asked for, so that's great. So now I think the next thing is going to be looking at the car movements and trying to get those straightened out. Okay, so our track is looking good now, and the next thing that we want to do is adjust the red car movement, which is a bit erratic. And the red car is the computer controlled car. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my developer command prompt, and I have a new prompt to input there. So I've said the tracks are perfect now, but the computer car needs some adjustment. The car is sometimes moving through a solid line, which is not allowed. Also, sometimes it is suddenly placed back at the preceding track corner, which should never happen. The car should either continue forward on the same track or switch tracks at a break in the track until the two cars crash into each other. So it says it will refine the track switching to prevent the car from moving through solid lines. Okay, and it'll only happen when it's aligned with a gap. That sounds good. I will correct the car's position to prevent it from jumping to incorrect locations. Okay, let's see. It's updated the logic. Oh, it says it's got some is at gap problems with logic for is at gap between the track lines. It says it's modifying the player logic, which is, it's a little bit concerning to me because the player, the blue car, was actually moving in a proper manner. So hopefully it doesn't end up breaking that movement. Okay, now it's going to try to run the game. Oh, shoot. Yeah, the red car. Okay. So red car. Interesting. Okay. Oh my gosh. Wow. Let's see. Okay. I see what it's doing. We need to give it some more direction on changing between tracks, I think. That's okay. We can deal with that. But another thing I saw here. Oh yeah, see there? It actually changed directions, which it should not be doing. So that's an easy thing to, let's just work on that first, the changing of directions. And I think that's we're only seeing that with the computer car, right? Yeah, it looks like the player car, the blue car, is not changed at all. Okay. Alright, so we're going to stop that and we're going to make a new prompt here. Alright, so we got a very simple prompt here. The computer car should always continue forward in the same direction. Currently it is sometimes reversing direction. So we're just going to try to do a very simple prompt change here. And I didn't really get into this at the beginning of the video, but I believe currently Gemini lets you have 1,000 requests in a day for free, which is just great. That's the Gemini command line which we're using. So we'd really have to put in a lot of requests to max out for the day. So it says fix the computer's turning. Now it's building. And we're running the game again. Let's take a look here. Looking in particular at the red car movement. Switching of tracks is still a little bit weird. But so far I have not seen it reverse direction. Oh, you know what? Okay, I see another problem. When they start out, they should be going in opposite directions, and they're going the same direction. Okay, so let's look at that again. Where do they start on here? That might be something worth looking into. If these don't start in the same. Okay. Alright, so that's another very simple thing to correct. I'm going to go back to our developer command prompt. So basically, the computer car and the player car should always be driving in opposite directions from each other. Hopefully that's understandable. Oh, interesting. It says I've reached my limit for the Pro models. I didn't even know I was using the Pro model, honestly. So yeah, I'm going to switch to Gemini Flash then, which is fine. I didn't even know I was using a Pro model. Alright, so Gemini is telling me that the cars are already moving in the opposite direction without a change. So, okay, let me think. On the original game, they both start on the outside track, I think, so that's what I'm going to have it do. They both start on opposite sides, so I'll have to specify where they start and what direction they go in. Maybe that'll help. Okay, so the next thing, we'll go back to the developer command prompt. And paste in our new prompt. So basically, both cars should begin the game on the outer track. The player car should start just to the right of the bottom center gap and drive toward the right side of the screen to start. The computer car should start just to the left side of the bottom gap and drive towards the left side of the screen to start. Alright, so some modifications are being made to direction variables, it looks like. Looking at computer changes right now. It's trying to do a build. Now we're going to run it. Let's see what it looks like. Perfect, it did start out. Oh, shoot, okay. It started out the way we wanted it to, but then it reversed directions on the blue one, which is no good. So it started out where we wanted, and then it reversed directions. Okay. I think we can fix that pretty easily. So that is the player car. The player car reversed its direction when reaching the first corner. It should not reverse, but instead continue in the same direction. Gemini is done implementing our latest changes, so let's see what it looks like. Hey, and it looks like it did not reverse direction, so that's good news. They're both headed in the same direction. Oh, and it crashed. Okay, and here we can see, I'll restart it here because you may not have seen the beginning of the screen there. You can see it starts in the right, they both start in the right place and they go in the right direction. Okay, and they may very well, they're probably going to crash again here. The previous run of this, they didn't crash right away. Oh, there, okay, so they probably won't crash right away. They will, though. They did. Okay, well, we're making more progress. So the next thing I'd say we need to work on is the glitchy changing of tracks for the computer car. Before I move any further, too, I'm going to go ahead and commit my changes to source control, because we've made a lot of progress here, I feel like. Oh yeah, so we got a basic sprite font, I think, that's being used, which this ends up displaying the text, the end of game text. We have all of the logic in here for the computer car, which is the red car. And then we have, let's see, okay, this is our main game loop logic is in here. There's a lot going on in this one. And we've got the player car logic is all kept in this class. If you remember, in our Gemini instructions file, we said to keep the classes in separate files, so that's part of the reason why this is done, I think. And I see there's some logic here for changing tracks, so with the keyboard. So that'll be interesting to get into, because so far it seems like we've not been able to do that. We have our C# project file, and we added a file to that. And we have some logic for the track itself, drawing the track lanes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and commit this. This would be, we'll say, maybe basic screen drawing and car movement logic. We'll go ahead and commit. Now, view all commits. We can see our branch history here. You see the first commit we made, and now we've added one there. So we could always roll back to this point, or we could roll back even to the beginning if we wanted to. Okay, so the next problem to tackle is the jumpiness of the computer car when switching between tracks. The track changing animation is too jumpy. Please make it smoother when the computer car reaches the gap We should randomly decide which of the 4 tracks to run on and show the car moving directly to that track instead of jumping back and forth between various tracks, as though a decision was still being made. Well, this is appropriate. It says polishing the pixels. The approach will eliminate jumping back and forth and make track changes more deliberate, while true smooth animation would require more complex rendering. And we'll see how this looks here. Cool down and random track choices across all 4 lanes. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll come back when the implementation is done. Alright, so it is done with the implementation. So I'm going to go ahead and run things again. We can see the red computer car here coming around the corner. Oop, and the change of track is much smoother. Unfortunately, we got a new problem. Looks like the computer car gets stuck on the first corner after the track change. So we'll have to deal with that. Alright, so let's see if we can get that problem tackled here. So I put track changing for the computer car looks much better. Unfortunately, there is a new problem. The computer car stops moving when it reaches the first corner after a track change. The computer car should instead continue moving. Looks like it's making some more modifications to our computer logic file, modifying the isChangingTrack variable. Alright, we're trying to run the game already. Shoot, still didn't work. Alright, so the bug is not fixed. The computer car still stops on the first corner after a track change. Uh-oh. I mistakenly wiped my change there. Computer car stops moving when it reaches the first corner after a track change. We'll see what it can come up with. Alright, so it looks like we've still got the same problem. And I was looking, let's see, I look here at the changes. One thing I wonder about is this direction. It's saying when we're going up, it's changing a direction to left, and it used to change to right, and the computer car should go up and then to the right. So it seems to me like this really should be what it was before, right? And then it's going down when it's going down, it's going to go to the left. I think we want to leave those like they used to be. We're going to give that a try and see what that does. So far, so good. It's looking good. So this is the thing I've encountered. You know, sometimes it does, in my experience, sometimes working with AI assistants like this has required some manual intervention. Unfortunately, that does add to the difficulty of the project. In this case, we had to make a small change. It's possible we might have gotten the AI to figure it out eventually, maybe with some better descriptions, but in this case, the quickest shortcut seemed to be to fix it myself. Now, I am going to have to watch and make sure, like we talked about with the rules, I told the AI to not make changes to manual updates that I've made unless absolutely necessary. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. So I'm going to go ahead and commit this. Let's see. That would be we fixed. Oh wait, or maybe just smoother track changing for computer car. Now I wonder about the player car. That'll be interesting to see, because we didn't change the player file with this update, and my guess is we're going to have potentially that jumpy animation with the player car. We'll see what happens. Okay, so I'm ready to move on to player movement. I'm going to go ahead and first I was thinking about the outside part of the screen. We have some gaps on there, and I'm afraid that may cause some problems with logic. So I'm going to go ahead and try to adjust that first. So I said I had to make some manual adjustments, but computer car movement is now working perfectly. At this time, please make the very outside track boundary on the edge of the screen into a solid line all the way around. That should be a really simple change for the AI, hopefully. We'll see here. Okay, so it made a change to the track class. And now it's building the project. And yes, it does look now like we got a solid line out there, which is what I wanted. Looks like all the movement is running very smoothly now as well. Okay, so now I've got another. We're going to ask it to make some changes here on how the player car movement is working. So I said, next I would like to address some issues with the player car. When I use the arrow keys, the player car does not currently change tracks. The player car should switch tracks in the following cases. If the left arrow key is being pressed and there is a gap in the track to the left. If the right arrow key is being pressed and there is a gap in the track to the right. If the up arrow key is being pressed and there is a gap in the track to the top. Or if the down arrow key is being pressed and there is a gap in the track to the bottom. The player car should be moved to the next closest track in the direction being pressed in any of these circumstances. So it looks like Gemini is thinking about this, so I'm going to go ahead and take a break here until it comes up with a solution. Okay, so we're going to try out the solution that Gemini came up with here. So I'm going to try to move the blue car here, and it did move to the right like I expected. Okay, now, so I pressed down and it actually went up. So it's kind of an opposite there. I tried to press right, it didn't move. I'm going to try to press up here. That worked. I'm going to try to press right. Nope, probably shouldn't have done that. Oh, it worked out okay though. Now I'm going to try to press down. Nope, didn't work. Now I'm going to try to press opposite here this time. Yeah, so it's going the opposite direction there. So we do need some adjustments here. It looks like when heading in certain directions, it's flipping the key press movements. So I'm going to provide another prompt here that will hopefully help it. This one's kind of lengthy. The player car is not always moving in the direction that I expect when pressing arrow keys at a gap. The direction that the car is heading should be ignored when calculating these movements. If the left key is pressed, the player car object will move to the track that is physically to the left on the screen. If the right key is pressed, the player car object will move to the track that is physically to the right on the screen. If the down key is pressed, the player car object will move to the track that is physically below the current car location on the screen. If the up key is pressed, the player car object will move to the track that is physically above the current car location on the screen. Hopefully this is going to be understandable enough. It is a little bit complex, and maybe there's a better way that it could be worded. Well, while it tries to come up with a solution here, I'm going to take another break, and I'll be back when it's done. Okay, so it's come up with something here. We're going to go ahead and give it a shot. Well, there, okay, that worked. Let's see. It seems like it's always working now. That worked. Now, okay. Ah, boy. It's interesting. Let's see. Yeah, it seems like the logic is flipped here. So, the directions that were working before are not working. They're opposite now, and the directions that were previously working, that were not working before are now working. So we definitely have more work to do. So let's see what I can tell it. When the car is heading up, and when the car is heading to the, let's see, up is not working, and when it's heading to the right, it is not working. So let's see what I can come up with for that. Alright, we're going to give this another shot here. Hopefully I won't have to go in and manually code this. So I'm saying the player car is moving to the opposite track when I press an arrow key, and the car is currently heading in an upward direction or rightward direction. Please fix the arrow key logic only for when the car is heading up on the screen or to the right on the screen. We'll go ahead and take a break while it's coming up with a solution here. Okay, Gemini has come up with a solution here, so we're going to give it a try. Yep, it looks like going up, things work. Going to the left things work. Now we're going down. I can change going down. How about going to the right? Yes, it works. Yes, it looks like it got the bugs fixed with that. That's great. Great. Okay, so go to the inner track here. And we're going to go to an outer track. I'm going to see what happens from on the very edge. Okay. Well, I wanted to see, yeah, can I try to go outside of the screen? No. Okay, so it seems like it's working alright. So that's definitely good progress, and we're going to want to save that change again. So this time, we got kind of, yeah, the player control logic has been updated for keyboard usage, and then we got the solid line on the outside of the screen. Let's see, fix player car keyboard movement. Now the next thing that I'd like to see probably is I notice I can only switch one lane or the track that is next to me, and in the original game you could switch multiple tracks. We probably need to work on that next. Okay, we're going to try this change next to possibly switch across multiple tracks here. When pressing a valid arrow key at a gap, the player car should be allowed to change across multiple tracks. If they press the key multiple times while at the gap, they should be able to make more than one switch. And while Gemini is thinking about it, we're going to take a break again. Alright, Gemini has come up with a solution here. We're going to go ahead and give it a shot. And it's kind of looking like it, well, there, when I'm going to the outer edge I can't really tell, but it doesn't look like I can change more than one track here. So it still needs some work. Alright, so this time I've said the player car is still only able to change to the closest track. Please check more frequently for key presses to see if I have pressed the arrow key multiple times before the gap is cleared. We'll give this a shot and see what Gemini can come up with. Alright, so Gemini did try to go ahead and correct this problem again, but unfortunately it didn't work out. We're still having that problem of we can't switch tracks more than one at a time. So I went ahead and dove into the code myself and tried to resolve this, and I was able to do it. And I'll show you the changes that I made. Let's see, in player.cs I adjusted this cooldown time variable ever so slightly from 0.2f to 0.15f. That seemed to work the best. And then, let's see, I didn't do that, but Gemini did that. And then when I went to track.cs, the gap detection, I suspected that wasn't working quite right. These outer ifs were really doing the main detection of the gap there. And then honestly, I'm not even certain what Gemini was doing with these. I went ahead and commented these inner ifs out, and everything seems to be working properly now. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll build it and we'll run it, and I'll show you exactly how it's working. Alright, so on the blue one again. There I moved it one. And move it one again. Now this time I'm going to try to move to the inner track here. I'm just going to hold down on the arrow key. So see, I was able to move all the way to the inner track. Now I can control it to just do 2 even. So I've got a lot of control over it now compared with what I did before. You can see it's working as expected now. Much better, at least. So now that that's fixed, I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, I'm going to remove these comments because I only wanted to keep those to demonstrate and show what it was that I removed. I'm going to save that, and now I'm going to say improved player car track switching controls. I'll go ahead and commit. So now that that problem is resolved, we're done with part 4 of our series here. And in our next episode, part 5, we're going to look at adding some pellets similar to Pac-Man that you will collect along the track, much like the original Dodge 'em game. Thanks for tuning in, and let's look forward to the next episode.